Good morning, I'm Paul Lisnek. Welcome to WGN TV Political Report. Coming up.
We must, and I'm confident we will, get this over the finish line.
As criticism from aldermen grows, Mayor Lori Lightfoot pushes forward with a Chicago casino. We begin this morning at City Hall. Tomorrow, a special council committee will meet for the first time to consider 3 proposals to bring a long-sought-after casino to Chicago. But it's going to be a hard sell for the communities. The 3 plans still in the running include Rivers 78 on the near south side, backed by Rush Street Gaming and Related Midwest. The second finalist is Bally's. They want to build on the site of the Tribune's publishing plant. And the third finalist, the Hard Rock Casino. That would be built in the so-called One Central development that's just west of Soldier Field. All 3 proposals include live music venues and other outdoor spaces. Developers say a casino could bring in nearly $200 million in revenue a year. Now, that cash desperately needed to shore up police and fire pension funds, but key aldermen who represent the sites and surrounding areas now say they aren't willing to gamble on a casino in their ward. They're citing traffic and crime and just the overall hassle and uprooting of the neighborhood as problems. Still, Mayor Lightfoot says she's confident the project is still on track for approval this summer.
This has got to be a decision that's made for the future of our city and not specific to a particular neighborhood. We need to take those neighborhood considerations in mind to be sure, but this is something that's going to benefit the entire city. This is another revenue stream that will generate substantial revenues to support those pensions so that we don't have to go to the taxpayers. So I want to make sure that that doesn't get lost in the shuffle.
And joining me in the studio this morning, Alderman Brian Hopkins, whose 2nd ward touches parts of Ukrainian Village, runs east into the Gold Coast downtown, adjacent to the Tribune printing proposal from Bally's. And Alderman Byron Sigcho Lopez, whose 25th ward covers parts of the South Loop out to Pilsen and Chinatown, includes the site of the Rivers 78 proposal. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me this morning. It's a hot topic. And Alderman Hopkins, let me start with you. Look, ordinarily aldermen jump at the chance to get an expensive development in their ward. Why all the dissension for this one?
Well, it's neighborhood opposition. All 3 sites have generated a significant amount of local concern based on the typical response to a mega project, you know, traffic, noise, crime, as you mentioned in the lead into the segment. So those are all things that the neighborhood takes very seriously. This is a massive development. All of them include other things besides the casino. As you mentioned, there's an entertainment venue, concert hall. The one in Alderman Sigcho Lopez's ward has a large observation tower. So things like that tend to stir up the nearby residents because they know it's going to have an adverse impact on their quality of life.
So Alderman Sigcho Lopez, obviously you are the elected leaders of your ward, and as I said in the lead-in here, obviously wherever the casino goes, there's going to be disruption to traffic, crime issues. We get all that, but it seems as though this is a situation where everybody wants a casino for the money, but they just don't want it in their backyard.
Right. No, it seems like, as Alderman Hopkins mentioned, the residents or constituents are ultimately pushing back on this. We have neighborhoods, and to the reasons that Alderman Hopkins mentioned, in the cases of Chinatown, we have the concern about predatory gambling as well as a big issue in the community. 5 schools that are in close proximity to the area. A Chinatown High School that was also promised. So, and of course, we had a previous project that was approved that we were working on for almost 6 years. So everything changes overnight. I do think it's important that we don't rush into decisions that can have adverse effects. We've seen how that plays out when in cases like the parking meter deal, and now we're regretting that decision.
So Alderman Hopkins, let's kind of be specific about what the ones we're talking about. The Bally's plan for Halsted and Chicago, you're not happy with that. Brendan Riley of the 42nd, he's not happy with that. But the casino itself would be actually in Walter Burnett's 27th ward, and he at one point said he's listening to the constituents. More lately, he said, I think I'm quoting, he doesn't want to be bothered with this project, though he's still listening. So what's your reaction?
Yeah, I don't blame him that he doesn't want to be bothered, but he doesn't have a choice. It's been dropped in our lap. We have to deal with it. You know, it's a contentious issue, and the neighborhood associations are riled up. It is not in my ward, that's true, but it's close, and it's close enough that the domino effect will spill down Chicago Avenue, which is the major arterial road for the people in my ward, and all the residents that rely on that already know traffic is untenable right now without the casino. So adding the casino to the current traffic conditions is a recipe for disaster, and that's the nature of the opposition.
And Alderman Ciccio Lopez, your situation is the Hard Rock proposal, and Pat Dowell of the 3rd Ward, she's an ally of the mayor, City Council Budget Committee as well. She's the chair. She came out against that proposal, and I know you're not happy with it as well, but my question is, in fact, you said we might be getting stuck with this anyway because there's so much pushback from others, but what about the powerful voices of a Pat Dowell, that kind of thing? How does that play out? How are you seeing it?
Well, we've seen, of course, that will have a big consideration. We also know that there are, some of the chairs are also members of this committee that was created. So that's precisely one of the concerns that we have, that is every voice going to be considered? And if such, I think it's important that we listen to the adverse effects in communities, and I will insist on this in Chinatown. Chinatown is a big engine of tourism and economic development in our community. Is it worth to put that at risk because of a casino? So I think that it's important that we focus as well on the alternatives, rushing a decision and looking to what is our agenda for Springfield. Do we have an agenda to, in case that this gets delayed, can we get also alternative revenue that we should be thinking about?
All right. And by the way, I misspoke. It's a 78.
The 78.
That's
correct.
in your ward,
Correct.
and it was Dowell is against the Hard Rock. So I'm sorry. And you didn't even correct me. Thank you for that. Alderman Hopkins, we're also undergoing a remap process. We talk a lot about that on this show, but let's not ignore it here. So when it comes to, say the 78 or whatever, how will remapping impact potentially the location?
Yeah, remapping casts a shadow over everything. But I think all of us right now, even though we've all taken sides, pretty much every alderman in the city council is supporting either, map A or map B, the two alternatives that are out there. So that's almost a wash in terms of how it's going to impact this decision. And frankly, the aldermanic prerogative question, which we're kind of talking about here, that's going to be a wash because each of the local aldermen for the 3 sites is opposed to it. So we've already played that card of aldermanic prerogative. We're going to have to make this decision of the 3 alternatives based on other factors because each alderman is saying, I don't want it in my backyard. Well, it's going to go somewhere.
Well, and let me follow up because I wanted to talk about this veto power. When you say prerogative, it's that veto power that aldermen generally are respected as having in their ward. In your situation where you say no, Riley says no, but Burnett says, but it's in my ward, if we were to honor the veto power and the prerogative, does Burnett control there?
Well, yes, but remember, this is an unwritten rule, right? It isn't something that can be enforced. It's cultural. It's really a courtesy that we as aldermen extend to our colleagues. However, in a case like this, there's a recognition that the larger citywide concerns are of greater magnitude than the local NIMBY issues that typically drive aldermanic prerogative. So this is one of those issues that I think is going to be sort of taken out of the aldermanic prerogative realm, and it will be decided based on the best interest of the city as a whole.
And I want you to chime in on that because you too would have, veto power in this situation. So, and of course, we know the mayor is not supportive of this prerogative idea. So, what is your sense of the power of the veto in this situation? Should it hold, or as Alderman Hopkins says, it's like, hey, it's a city issue. It's bigger than that.
Yeah, and Alderman Hopkins is right. It's an unwritten rule. I do think that what we have heard from our constituents, that what we want is community prerogative. That projects shouldn't happen because there are political interests or campaign contributions flying, which they are in the case of casino operators. So, what we want to make sure is that we're hearing the concerns of the residents and addressing them. I do think that my concern is that what we're about to find out is what mayoral prerogative looks like, because ultimately we can hold our elected officials accountable locally, and the residents have that responsibility and the right. What happens now that if the community is against it, but yet we still impose it? I do think that that's going to be something to watch for, and that's what we insist. And we'll be, even though I'm not a member of that committee, I expect to attend and raise their concerns.
So it's interesting because what we know is that every one of these proposals is getting somebody mad for some reason. Right. So given that, let me just ask you, if the mayor's watching our show, and she likely does, I hope, what should she be, because City Council still has to prove it, Illinois Gaming Commission still has to prove this, what factors, each of you, should they be looking at?
Well, obviously revenue. We're doing this because we need the money. It's really that simple. Our pension funds are bordering on insolvency. We're going to have to fix that.
But in terms of location specific?
Specifically in terms of location, the perfect site for this casino doesn't exist. Every site you could come up with, even the ones that aren't on the table, like Navy Pier, McCormick Place, there's flaws associated with every site. So we're going to have to pick the best of what's on the table. And right now there's only 3 on the table. And it really does come down to site suitability, traffic congestion, being able to to build out the infrastructure. And I would argue that the two sites that are on the river actually have an advantage over the one site that isn't, simply because it's a tourist attraction. You've got the dock, you've got boats, you've got the ability to take a cruise up and down. So there's that additional feature that those two sites have an advantage that will generate tourism dollars. And again, this is all about generating revenue and stopping the revenue stream that's currently going to Indiana, by the way.
Alderman, do you have a specific factor that you think this is what they should be considering in this election?
I think what is important is that we look at a cost of benefit analysis. We also got to see the costs associated with affecting communities like Chinatown, which will be a huge effect. The proximity to the river, also I think that we need to consider that congestion, the effects on public safety. All those things need to be incorporated. I do think that ultimately we need to choose a side where we have the least impact, the least harm, the least cost associated with that, so that we can maximize revenue. I wish that we will have all options at the table so that somehow the casino operators have managed to narrow it to 3 that are convenient to them. I do think that was, in my opinion, a mistake. I wish we have every option at the table, that we weigh in with the residents, and ultimately we make a balanced approach between revenue, but also understanding the cost associated with bringing a casino.
So the casino committee meets tomorrow.
Yes.
And what do you think is triggering it at this time, and what can they accomplish?
Well, I don't anticipate a vote tomorrow. I think there'll be additional discussion on the traffic studies, which again, that is really fueling a lot of the local resistance to the idea. So each one of the 3 proposals has their advocates, and those advocates want to tell us why they've solved the traffic problem. I'm not sure they have yet, but they're entitled to make their case, and we have to listen to it with some sense of objectivity, putting aside our local issue, and try to make this decision on a citywide basis and analyze which of these 3 proposals really does have a concrete solution that sounds like it might work.
Finally, you're not on the committee, and yet you have one of these proposals in your ward. Why aren't you on it?
Well, Mayor Lightfoot decided to create a parallel track. Now chairs and vice chairs will be deciding on this issue. I think that this is a citywide project. I do believe that in the last meeting we made a case to have, if not every council member in this committee, at least the people or the alderpersons who represent a proposal and in which ward that this can happen. I think that this is a larger question. And again, what I like to point out, that if we need revenue, I think that we need to start talking about that, because if this gets delayed, and I think that we should not be rushing into a decision that we later can regret. I do think that we need to be serious about a Springfield agenda where we can start to talk about revenue that also taxes corporations and billionaires who are benefiting by these same proposals. I think there are ways to do this, but rushing it, my concern that we will regret it in the future.
Alderman Byron Sigcho Lopez, Alderman Brian Hopkins, got to get the first names right. Thank you for being with me. Report back on the meeting tomorrow, and I appreciate your time, and we'll see how things goes. One day we'll play poker in a casino somewhere. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
And coming up next.